睛，你会怎么做？他倒是告诉我，我怕听不见。以前起的火把是你式的魔法，慢慢的渗入我的心逐渐。你举起前进更难逃脱，抬头看天空，爱就在飘落。可以是歌手，是作家，写诗在行诗，当然那些爱情小说。水火让我伴着你左右，爱情在燃烧，看着你火候。你最爱看太阳落下，我明。
Good morning, everybody. I hope this video finds you well. Today what I want to do is I want to talk about the nature of the universe, our reality. And I've done other posts on this. There's not going to be any deviation in understanding. All of my posts on the nature of reality derive entirely from my interconnectedness, be it as it may, with Domain Commander. Or domain, as seemingly it's one and the same. And you can discard it if you wish, or listen on if you may find this helpful for you personally in some way. Now, it was passed on to me by an influencer. I like to call him a friend. Actually, I like to call all of you influencers as friends of mine. A video of something that's been making its rounds on the internet. And essentially what's going on is there was an exobiologist who for less than a decade, but a significant amount of time nevertheless, studied the genetic makeup and biology of these grays, extraterrestrial, which, as you all should know, are domain fabrications. Let me elaborate a little bit more. Domain is a organization that spends most of their time in a non-physical form. You can call it a nation or a collection of souls or collection of consciousness that reside primarily outside of the physical reality, certainly the physical reality that we're part of, and they construct these biological entities from which they inhabit to do interactions on the physical realm. They claim, and I believe them, but that doesn't matter. They claim to have knowledge going back to the very beginning of beginnings. And I'm not going to debate that for now. But what I'm going to talk about now is how they believe soul is constructed. Okay? And to do this, I am going to add an excerpt from a narrative made by this exobiologist. He discusses a lot about the physical characteristics of these domain constructs, but I'm not going to get too involved in that. But I am going to refer to and place in here his comments as to what the domain believes. Now, I could tell you right off the bat, after I listened to the video, my first thing was to ask the domain commander, is this valid? Even though I knew that it pretty much aligned with everything I understand to be. And the response from the domain commander is yepper. Not yes, not affirmative, but yepper, which is, of course, meaning yes and affirmative, that's what they believe. And for those of you who may think otherwise, it's not a belief embedded within religious dogma or in superstition or in some kind of construct for a cult following or any such nonsense like this, but rather that is what all things domain is built upon, this understanding of quanta and souls and consciousness and how it all interacts and relates to each other, which is kind of what I've been throwing out to the internet now for quite some time now. And so what I'm trying to say is, yeah, this little discussion that came out of left field, I mean literally left field, and hit me, it pretty much validates everything that I have been saying.
Assembly. Importantly, no AMMs have been observed. Exobiospheric organisms believe that the soul is not an extension of the individual, but rather a fundamental characteristic of nature that expresses itself as a field, not unlike gravity. In the presence of life, this field acquires complexity, resulting in negative entropy, if that makes sense. This gain in complexity is directly correlated with the concentration of living organisms in a given location. With time, and with the right conditions, life in turn becomes more complex until the appearance of sentient life. After reaching this threshold, the field begins to express itself through these sentient beings, forming what we call the soul. Through their life experiences, sentient beings will in turn influence the field in a sort of positive feedback loop. This in turn further accelerates the complexity of the field. Eventually, when the field reaches a critical mass, there will be a sort of apotheosis. It's not clear what this means in practical terms, but this quest for apotheosis seems to be the exobiospheric organism's main motivation. The author of the document added his reflections and interpretations as an appendix. He specified that, for them, the soul field is not a belief but an obvious truth. He also argues that the soul loses its individuality after life ends, but that memory and experience persist as part of the field. This fact would influence the philosophy and culture of exobiospheric organisms, resulting in a society that doesn't fear death, but which places no importance or reverence on individuality. This belief compels them to seed life, shape it, nurture it, monitor it, and influence it for the ultimate purpose of creating this apotheosis. Paradoxically, they have little or no respect for an individual's well-being. Please be advised that I'm speaking from memory of something I read more than 10 years ago.
Perhaps listening to another person say this might help you believe what I'm trying to say. But essentially, the only new thing that comes out of this is the idea that consciousness is unique to our identity, and we place that uniqueness as a great deal of importance. But domain, they're all part of the same soul. And so consciousness is a shared reality. And that can explain why you may watch these physical embodiments of domain, these little gray people or whatever you see moving around. They seem to work with precision, doing this and doing that, much like how hands work together. Whether you're drumming on a desk or whatever, they seem to interact quite well together. The idea here is, and I personally believe it, I think domain is onto something, and you can disagree, it's fine with me, but in the quantum world, there is just quantum interactions, and at some point in time, as quanta obtains more and more associations with other quanta, it gets experienced. That experience creates things, and memories and thoughts are created, and eventually reason is created, and eventually from that you start getting physical embodiments. All of these things are spawned off of quantum interactions. As quantum interacts over time, and we're talking massive swaths of time. Of course, time doesn't exist, but for us to understand it, as frustrating as it might be, that's how it works. Eventually you get these embodiments of physical reality, and then you get articulated creatures that occupy those realities, one of which is humans. many, many such other creatures. And so these creatures then are nothing but houses for the consciousness to enter, experience things with, and then leave. And the consciousness, in turn, is a portion of the soul. And the soul is, of course, a portion of a much larger accumulation of other souls. So as you can see, it's like levels, right? You have a physical reality level. Then you have a consciousness generating thought level. And then you have a close to reality, non-physical reality level. And so forth and so on, as you see consciousness moves in and out towards higher states of energy. And these higher states of energy, of course, interact closer and closer to the soul. And soul, of course, is all the other consciousnesses, all the other souls combined. Why is this important? And that's really what I want to talk to you guys about. Why this is important. Well, first of all, there's an immortality in quanta. It does not die. It never dies. You will not die. Your physical body will decay, but your consciousness will not die. That's the first thing. So all these loved ones you've had that's passed on, they're still around somewhere. Might be in different forms. Consciousness might still be shuffling about one way or the other, but they're in different forms for whatever it's worth. Another thing that you might find interesting is the idea that since we are all spawned from our consciousness, us, are all spawned from our soul, and our soul is part of a larger soul, then it means that all these other people and things that we interact with are themselves part of us. Now, our memories are partitioned and associated with consciousness. But what is that point in time where consciousness-generated memories merge with others? That's a good question. I don't know. But you have to realize that our situation is a lot more nuanced and extreme as far as the universe is extreme than we ever can understand. So if you were angry at somebody and you put a hex or a curse on somebody else, you're actually putting it on a part of your own self at a higher point. Like you go up to a higher stage, you slide over, you get down. These things. So that's why everything is interrelated. The best thing you can do when you are confronted with difficult situations is to disentangle as best as you can. Turn off your ego, focus on disentangling, and leave. You want to disentangle from others who may not understand the impetuousness of your association and your quantum association with something larger. Which brings me on to domain. No wonder it was so easy for me to, I'm going to call it, be assimilated. Those of you who watch Star Trek, of course, you know that the Borg assimilates other races and cultures, and they join it whether they want to or not. And once they're assimilated, they become part of the hive. And I've long stated that part of my agreement with Majestic and everything, and of course with Domain, was a role, and for me to do my role I had to have been assimilated, and so here I am, and so I'm permanently connected. And I don't care if you believe it or not, that's just the way it is. Guys, for whatever it's worth, Domain Commander gets a big chuckle when I do these videos. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. Not making fun of me, well, maybe a little making fun of me, playful banter, and it's not making fun of you guys either. But it's just how simple I'm making things out from something extremely complicated. It's like a jet engine. You see those jet engines and you see how complicated it is. You see the turbines, you see the blades and the difficulty in fabricating the blades and the electronics that support the blades and all this kind of stuff. And then you've got me and I'm explaining to a 2-year-old, I said, this machine makes the plane fly. Anyways, the Domain Commander just thinks it's a hoot, and for whatever it's worth. That's. I just had to interject that. I'm sorry about this. So the nature of reality isn't anything at all what we have been led to believe. And those of us who are on the alternative fringes, the UFO enthusiasts, the New Agers, all kinds of people who are trying to find answers towards something that just doesn't fit the old paradigms, and we're looking for answers and we're trying to figure out what's going on. To you searchers and you dreamers, I'm here to tell you that the simplicity of the entire situation of what reality is so simple. It is just organized quanta that generates pattern forms, we may call them wavelengths, pattern forms that combine together to create everything we see and experience. You can get focused on the frequencies and wavelengths, and that's a good thing because it creates utility. You can get focused on what you physically interact with. Those are particles. And you can make things and create things and destroy things with them. You can get focused on thoughts and thought generation. Thought generation is fundamental to the nature of consciousness. This brings up what I want to talk about now. Are thoughts spawned from consciousness, or are thoughts spawned from the soul that consciousness is part of? What spawns consciousness? What spawns thoughts? So consciousness is a part of your soul that is injected into this physical body. From that, our brain is like a tool that we use to operate this body and interact within this reality. And we're thinking thoughts associated with our consciousness when we're transitioning from particle to waveform as we hop from the different world lines. Those of you who know what I'm talking about understand this concept. We hop from world line to world line 4 hertz per second. So anyways, so you all know this. The question here is consciousness intrinsically attached to soul, or is it separate? When I went ahead and made my other previous videos, I identified it as something separate, because soul would be like a chunk you would remove out to enter into a universe. Plop. Therefore, the thoughts generated within that universe must come from the portion of soul that has been thus placed in that universe. So it's consciousness associated with soul that generates those thoughts. The impasse in access to memories and the impasse in full knowledge of everything, because obviously the soul knows far more than what consciousness knows, suggest that there are two streams of processes going on. We have the first stream, which is direct conscious thought, derived from consciousness, and the second one is the higher order thoughts. I have, in the past, referred to these as manted. We got the GP, the general purpose manted that's in general population, which is the one that you interact with, and then you have the manted prime, which is the soul consciousness. Manted prime is the body of soul, lying outside this universe, where manted GP is the one associated with this universe that you interact with. And image of domain commander sitting in bleachers eating popcorn and watching me with a little tweeter, just enjoying the show. Image of. This is kind of stuff this is kind of stuff I have to deal with all the time. When I'm getting involved in this kind of stuff, oh my God, domain commander has a front row seat. I'm taking a shit. I'm making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I'm toasting up some eggs. You know, the domain commander is nowhere to be found. He's just ignoring me. But when it comes to this kind of stuff, and every now and then, you know, he's going to give me this little kind of dig. Actually, it's funny and it's humorous. I'm not bad-mouthing it, but I just want you guys to have an appreciation of what my life is like. Not a bad life, but it's increasingly sounding like I've got a crazy life. Sorry. There you have it. You don't have to believe anything I have to say or anything anybody else has to say. All that you care about and all you need to pay attention to is the most basic thoughts, is that you're in control of your own reality. Your thoughts alter your reality as well as your physical deeds alter your reality. And there's no such thing as death. When you die, you go somewhere else, and it's all quantum in nature, and you don't need to worry about it. And the experiences of one person, whether it's me or that person on the street over there, or your own experiences, will vary so completely based upon your understanding of your interactions within this reality that other people may look crazy or selfish or evil or contemptuous or good or pristine. And you have to take them as they are, right or wrong, good or bad, as long as they're not going to harm you. Take them as they are, okay? Be the best you can be, and you'll be just fine. So, I just want to summarize. I think I summarized a little bit so you understand how things fit together in this rambling conversation. I personally believe that domain fully understands how things work, and I think it behooves us to at least look at the way they view things, and maybe we can have a little of comfort in our lives when things go tits up. Okay, guys, enough of this. Be good to yourself. Be good to those around you. Eat well. Life is too short to be spending all your time on overly processed foods. Eat well. A little bit exercise hasn't hurt anybody. I've been losing weight. I feel marvelous, baby. And just be kind to dogs and cats. And every day and in every way, try to be a little bit better. Remember, I believe in you. Bye-bye.
就会出现。面对你的背叛，无力挽回。告别你的无情，我的误会。Notte giorno penso a te, al mattino voglio te. Scusami più che puoi, non mi lasciare mai. Stringimi forte amore, questo sogno dedicato a te. Queste notti son per te, il mio cuore ama te.
Better watch yourself in a miss your time. Sissing out here, it will blow your mind. Come and increase and in a decline. Which crime me attack? And the gun crime. Waste them from true, what can't be fine. The youth them tired living on the red line. The money no excuse to rock the blind. Our weapon is a god, the fast is
越
the
来
time.
越憔悴，是为了谁？我们的心碎。